Buongiorno
Sorry.
e benvenuti all'ultimo incontro negli Studios Lounge.
I'm gonna cry.
It's sad, it's sad.
The last episode of this intense edition, and I really want to thank, first of all, before introducing our really prestigious guest, I would like to really thank the team, the locations, and really everybody that made this possible. Vorrei ringraziare veramente tutti, dalle nostre host, della nostra squadra, delle location e tutti i nostri partner. È stata un'avventura meravigliosa e quindi to be continued. Ok, let's do
Let's
this.
start. Beh, oggi è un giorno speciale non solo perché è l'ultimo, perché oggi abbiamo un ospite grandioso, un artista a 360 gradi se vogliamo, perché parliamo di un regista pluripremiato, parliamo di uno sceneggiatore, di un produttore ed è veramente un grande onore averlo qui con noi. Sto parlando di Jim Sheridan.
So
Good
this
morning.
I'm gonna just translate, and so this is a special episode, not just because it's the last one, but because we have a really special guest. We have the honor to have here Jim Sheridan, amazing, world-known, award-winning director, and thank you so much for being with us today.
I know it's great to be here in Ferrara. I've enjoyed it so far. Beautiful city, beautiful food, beautiful people. Very
Beautiful
nice.
view
Not
today.
bad. Not bad view, yeah.
So I'll speak in Italian and Max
I'm gonna
will
do the English
translate.
version.
Yeah.
So, hai scelto di fare un lavoro bellissimo,
You chose a wonderful profession,
ma anche difficilissimo.
but also very difficult.
Vedendo la tua carriera, il tuo primo film l'hai fatto che eri già grande, no? Io mi chiedo, quando hai scelto di fare questo lavoro?
And speaking of your career, you decided to start your career when you were not like a super young. So what made you decide to do this?
I think just I had done theatre for a long time. Started with my father. He started an amateur theatre group. And I started doing plays, theatre plays. And I did that all my life. And then at a certain point I wanted to make movies. I always wanted to make movies, but it wasn't really possible. And there was a man in Ireland, John Borman, who was English, who was doing a lot of films. And he asked me and Neil Jordan to do something. And Neil did it instead of me. It was like a documentary on Excalibur. And then I decided that, I didn't really want to do something in Ireland. And I went to America, and just to make a living, I was doing theatre and writing film on the side. But I did a small course in New York University, in I think the Tisch School, and it was called Sound and Vision. And in that 6 weeks, I think I learned everything that you need to know about making movies, I was probably too old to get into, making special effects and all that. So, but my stories were more like theatre, but films,
Thank you.
Io penso che sia stato molto importante l'esperienza teatrale, perché poi, no?
Yeah, of course. It was very
La puoi vedere.
fundamentally important to have a theater experience before jumping into the film.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both similar, and they both tend towards one thing, which is kind of unity, of time and space, and they're not that different. Like, you can do most things in theatre that you can do on film. Film's more democratic. You know, it's closer, and you don't have to project and speak loud. So it tends to, like, if you look at this town, and if you think of the Duke of Deste, and he must have been like a powerful speaker, controller, speak to the peasants on the square. That requires theatrical performance, and film is much more close and intimate and democratic.
Yeah.
E in tutto il tuo percorso artistico, io mi chiedo, qual è stato quel momento che tu ricordi ancora oggi perché è molto emozionante,
So
memorabile?
in your long career, which one was the most memorable moment?
Film is hard to make. You know, you don't, if you're doing it right, you don't tend to have a great time. You know, you're like stressed. You know, you're trying to figure what's next, and there's a lot going on. So it tends to be like, I hope this is over soon, rather than I'm enjoying this party.
I have a specific question about working with Daniel, since you mentioned, and it's a personal curiosity. You know, we all know Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, method actor, probably the most method actor in the world. Is does that make your job as a director easier or more difficult? Because I'm really curious about that.
For me, much easier.
Okay.
You know, it's the first time Daniel played the part on and off screen was my left foot, you know. So for me, it was like everybody paid attention to him. You know, they thought he was crazy or thought he was amazing, but he was the center of attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they weren't looking to see if the director knew anything.
Was he staying character the whole time? So is that true?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And that was most interesting when we went to work with children who had cerebral palsy. And I realized at that moment that, like, if he just got up out of the chair and walked away, they'd all be devastated. So people misjudge the method as being an affectation, like an adjective added on to a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like but it's much more like somebody gets to live somebody else's life, and the more they respect the journey into that person, the more spiritual it is, the more honest it is,
Mm-hmm.
the more real it is. Like, acting is crazy, you know. It's like Daniel is unique in that he's edgy, but he's very, very, he's part of the team. You know, he's not like a crazy actor, but crazy actors are good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if I could talk about, you know, Van Gogh, you know, the painter,
Mm-hmm.
I think when he was painting anybody, he was looking at them and they were looking at him going, when can I go home? Do you know what I mean? When can I get out of here? This guy's fucking crazy and I need to get away from him, you know? And he's feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's overcoming it with making the person present. Like, no, I'll keep you here and I'll paint you onto the canvas. So I think that painting and acting and everything is about the emotion you're bringing from behind the camera. So if you've people behind the camera who are not listening, it's really simple. It's harder to do it. You go like, listen to what I'm saying, or do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, totally.
So the energy being projected from behind the camera determines what will happen on camera. It's not like what's happening on camera is outside of the zeitgeist or the world of what's around you. It's part of the world. It's a pretend You say to God, stop. You didn't get the world right. I'm going to fix it. That's what theater is. It's demonic. It's anti. It's kind of recreating the world in the image of man as opposed to God. But I think with that comes certain things that you have to be aware of, you know, that you're basically giving people the freedom to act how they like in a strange environment in film, and they don't really get that in real life, you know.
Yeah.
They don't have that same freedom. They do, but nobody takes advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Io ti chiederei, hai fatto molti film, quindi ogni film io credo che sia una nuova sfida, no? Un nuovo progetto, una nuova sfida.
You made many films. Every new film is a new challenge.
C'è stato un film che ti ha messo in difficoltà come regista?
Which one is the movie that made your life, professional life, more difficult?
Forse ogni progetto mette in difficoltà, io chiedo quel film che più ti ha messo in crisi.
Well, we're sure every film is, you know, it's very difficult. But which one was the most difficult to make?
They have different difficulties, you know. Like, probably the most difficult is if you have an actor who disagrees with you, because that's happening in real time, you know, on the set. And, you know, you've 400 people saying, move, go fast, it's costing money. And you've one guy going, I don't agree. And that's hard, because you've got to keep 400 people happy and he's only got to keep himself happy. But the contradiction is kind of like what I explained about Van Gogh painting. People who are happy to sit in front of the camera are not that interesting, you know, because they're performing and they're happy with themselves. And mostly people are not happy with themselves. So when they see a person happy with themselves, they say, go home, George Clooney. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know the way sometimes George Clooney is a supreme performer, but sometimes he might be too much of a performer. I love George Clooney, but so it's just that I don't think the audience of a certain type of film want performance. They want truth. They want pain. They want, you know, they want the soul, not the. So if you're having trouble with an actor, that's really hard. If you're having trouble with a producer, that's not as hard on the day-to-day, but in the end, 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had a producer in America who was, I would say, clinically insane. You know, and he was the money. And everybody in his company would bow down to him. And he was very abusive. And I abused him back. And nobody could understand, you know, I was waiting for him to fight me or sack me. And neither happened. And he would go in to watch the movie, the cut of the movie, and fall asleep for the entire 2 hours. And then wake up and give a note at the beginning and end. And everybody knew he was asleep in the company, but they would pretend he knew everything about the movie. So you can get into, sometimes people with power, financiers with power, are more interested in the power they have than the end product. You know?
Unfortunately, it's very true.
Yeah, yeah.
Un'ultima cosa, cambiando un po' argomento. Il Ferrara Film Festival è un evento che dà molto spazio ai giovani. Li vediamo anche qui attorno a noi, no? Io vorrei sapere che consiglio ti sentiresti tu di dare ai giovani artisti di oggi?
So one last question about being here at Ferrara Film Festival, and we are surrounded by young people, even in this studio. So what would be a suggestion that you would like to make if somebody wants to start a career as a film director?
Well, I hope for the sake of the future that people are interested in the truth and justice, and not just interested in making money, and because it's become too difficult, the world. There's too much untruth on the TV. So I would say about these cameras, like they're two digital cameras and we have a still digital. When film was 24 frames, you had to develop it. And the director had more power. So did the cinematographer, because the studio had to wait till it was developed. But once it went to this digital, the studio could see what they were going to get right away, and they start then controlling it more. And the problem now is that if you take 24 frames, it's frames. It's like my iPhone. It's framed. So when a movie projected, there was like 10 minutes of darkness. But your eyes, human eyes, see reality at 24 frames. Like flies, a fly that flies around, you would need 1,000 frames for the fly not to be deceived. So when you take it out of the frames and put it in digital, you shift everything to the surface. So now you can change the surface, and everybody knows you can change the surface. So you could give me the head of Daniel Day-Lewis talking here, right? And you could be doing an interview with Daniel Day-Lewis and nobody would know the difference. So people don't trust what they're seeing anymore. And therefore they only want to see cartoons. They only want to see Marvel cartoons, things that are spectacular, because they know it's not true.
Do you like those movies?
I know, I don't really. But I don't dislike them. I thought Top Gun was very good, but that was shot a little bit like the old way. I went to see Spider-Man, I couldn't watch it. It's about belief systems to me, Like you have a church here. So until about 50 years ago, Italy and Ireland was totally ruled by that church. And in one decade it all went down. And it went down because of film, because of TV, because people saw the truth on TV. And you lost all that spiritual. And so now you have no spiritual center. You have no belief system. So if people don't believe, it's of no value. In the soul level, on a higher level, it has no value. That's the danger where cinema is now. That it's, people go, you can do anything. But if you can do anything, you can do nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Do you think there's hope for a change in the near future?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let's hope so.
I think, like, I started making a documentary recently, and that was much more, I was able to get at truths, and I could see how much the entire world of media and press and where they'd make a narrative and keep the narrative. Like, I don't know if you had it in Italy, but I do know it came from Italy, and it was called Limbo. Do you remember Limbo?
Yes, I do, but I'm trying to now remember that.
I'll explain what Limbo was.
Okay.
When the Catholic Church had a problem with children under 5, 7,
Right.
who were not baptized,
Right.
who died, they couldn't send them to purgatory or hell.
Oh, right.
So they had to invent limbo. So Limbo was full of hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of children all walking around before they went to heaven. And people believed it. It's crazy,
It's crazy.
but people for 2,000 years believed it. So it proves that you can make people believe anything.
Very true.
So now they, you know, I do think it needs a kind of revolution. So imagine that you have imagine the director's from Pakistan. He's probably Muslim. It's very hard for a Muslim film to penetrate the Western consciousness because they don't accept the belief system. They kind of watch it and they go, ugh. So that's one element that would be easy enough to see. But if you take that and take like Italian, say take Scorsese or Coppola, there's one only Godfather is the only exception. Every other Italian movie had a limited audience in the America. And that audience was confined to the coasts, to the city-states. It didn't play the red states. Like no Italian movie would play in Dallas or Minneapolis or St. Paul for 150 years. 150 years. They rejected it. So if I went to the States and went to go around, they always sent me to New York, Boston, LA.
Yeah.
And they send Italians there.
Yeah.
Because Italians and Irish were peasants who left their country from below Naples and in the west of Ireland to go to America. But once they got to the city, they weren't moving because they weren't going back to the land that was so tough. So their belief system, which was Catholic, is in conflict with the Trumpian belief system, which is Northern European Protestant. Now, Trump doesn't believe in anything, but he uses that belief system to stay in power. And that belief system is individualism. It's kind of like, if I decide it, it's true. I don't need a community. I don't need democracy. So, and sometimes that would penetrate Italy with like Mussolini and that, but I'm very interested in belief systems and religion and what's the new religion if we don't have any old religion. And for me, the religion is I can go around my life fucking around and doing nothing, but if I'm turning on the camera and if I'm lying in my life, if I have to socially adjust and be nice to you or this beautiful girl or anybody, when I get behind the camera, I need to be telling the truth.
Yeah.
Like, why do I do it if I'm not doing that?
Exactly. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I mean,
Okay.
I could listen to you for hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have that much time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
in front of the camera.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean,
I hope I didn't out you there.
okay.
But you know,
well,
like the belief
yes.
system is so in 1920, the biggest star in the world was an Arab. The biggest by a mile, Rudolph Valentino.
Oh.
He wasn't actually Arab, but he looked like an Arab and he dressed like an Arab and he was the sex bomb.
That's right.
And when they got oil, that was over.
Yeah.
Because once they had oil, they'd power over us.
Yeah.
And that was like, woo.
Yeah. That's very true. Well,
All right.
thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you so much
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
for
to be
Jim
here.
Sheridan to be here with us. It's been
It's
an honor.
fabulous to be here with people who are interested, honestly, in cinema. I love it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it's really sweet. And I could understand everything you said, even though you were
Okay.
speaking Italian.
Yeah, oh, you
It's
did.
weird. It's
Ah.
weird. Like,
It's
mostly
just,
I
it's just
got
the
it.
air of Ferrara.
Yeah. Just communication.
Absolutely.
It's all about communication. It's not about art.
Absolutely. That's great.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
So much.
we finished this series of Studios Lounge talk show with a bang with Jim Sheridan.
Non potevamo finire in modo migliore, credo, no?
Assolutamente.
Ve l'avevo detto che sarebbe stato speciale e non ha deluso le aspettative, direi.
Grazie.
Come
You know, you really, we knew it was special, but this was like really, really special. Grazie a tutti, grazie a Studios che ha creato questo spazio all'interno del festival. Thank you for studios that created this wonderful space within the festival.
E grazie al nostro direttore artistico.
Che sono
direi.
io, which is
Sì.
me, ok.
Sì, grazie.
No, grazie a voi. Thank you Jim, thank you friends home, grazie amici a casa. Che dire? Ci vediamo
L'anno prossimo.
prossimo anno, ok? See you next year. Mwah.
Grazie a tutti.
Max, if you get a projector, right? In Serbia, they can only show movies on projectors because after they lost the war, nobody will give them movies. They don't have digital projectors. But the first, in 10 years, projectors will be much more important than vinyl. Because it's a different experience.
Yes, it is.
And people, so you could take all the classic movies and show them on projected and people will go, I'm telling you.
Okay.
Because
No.
it's like being in a trance as opposed to being watching the surface all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know how relaxing it is to watch a movie on projection?
Very. I personally love
Yeah.
it.
But if you put in the frames a word, people will do that. If you put popcorn, they'll run out and buy popcorn because they see it subliminally.
The subliminal message. Well,
But it's
that's
there.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jim. Thank
All right.
you.